Hey there, and welcome to Bold Badass Business, where we bring you the badasses who are going to help you absolutely revolutionize your business, stay on top of new trends, and boost your profits so you can be an even bigger giver in the world. Today, you all, I am very excited to have on here Toni Kaufman, who is a best-selling author. She is a producer, a casting director. She is certified Six Sigma. If there's anything she hasn't done, I don't know what it is. I mean, literally, this woman is a phenomenon. And I'm thrilled to have you, Toni, on the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, I can go now. You've already done all the good stuff.
So it's been a while since I've gotten to see you. You all listening, you should know that Toni and I were roommates on the Podcasters Cruise, and we had so much fun. I'm
Never
surprised
a dull moment.
there
First of
was
all, it's the
never a
best
dull
cruise
moment.
ever. You guys have got to sign up for it. Even if you don't have a podcast, you're just thinking about it, get your butts on that Podcasters
Yeah,
Cruise. It
get
is
your butts
so
on it
fun.
and give my name because I want some. I earned some stage time when you sign up and tell them I sent you. All right, and I definitely want to talk about on there. Talk about how podcasting is one of the best
Sure,
ways to really create and strengthen your
sure it
relationships.
is. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's funny is that podcasting is fun, but there's also a new cruise coming up in September, Bardsley,
Mm,
the Speakers Cruise.
mm,
So that's coming
nice.
up, and that's going to be a blast as well. So we're getting ready for that. I'll be putting some signs up, and you know what? I'm gonna give you all the deets so that
All
you
right,
can
that
help.
sounds great. So you may want to come a little bit closer, Toni, and
Okay.
remember we're doing this on video and audio, and so make sure you're checking in with people wherever your camera is there. So you are looking at the camera. So
Yeah.
anyway, wherever that may be for you, here's a little tip, everybody. When you start doing a video podcast, this is for everybody listening or when you're on Zoom, it is very important that you figure out exactly where your camera is so that when you look, you're looking in the eyes of the person you're speaking to. So I have this little pink post it that goes right up here, and that keeps me focused. Because otherwise, if I'm looking like down on the screen at where the Zoom is, where somebody is in the gallery, or I'm looking over here, it's very strange. So just give yourself a little pink post-it note and use that in your Zoom calls because in our culture it's so important, isn't it? And so one of the worst ways you could ruin your reputation, we could just start there, is just never look people in the eye, right?
I'm
Don't look
looking.
them
I'm
in the eye,
looking.
or look at them so weirdly that you're creepy, right? Toni, I love our topic, the 5 worst ways to ruin your reputation and brand and business. And you have had a long career. Tell everybody just a quick little summary of your illustrious career.
Well, I was in television. God, 50 years ago, I was producing television shows, and I was in charge of producing 5.5 hours a day of local origination programming. So, I mean, any show that you can think of that would be a good half hour, I'd produce it.
Cool.
And went from there to become a complete geeky, wonderful nerd, and learned everything I could about Microsoft, and became the owner of a big computer training center in Houston, which led me to get appointed to head the transition team to bring President H.W. Bush back home, and I became his personal computer trainer. And we did a lot of, we did a lot of cool stuff before it was cool, right? Because we were geeks before we were cute. So so I had a good time with that. And then after that, I went to Hewlett Packard and became the chief of staff of global IT for the SAP division. And then I retired from there and decided to go back into serving and helping others. Now, in that long period of time, I also became a producer for the Latin Grammys. I worked with Fremantle Media and Fremantle Media Latin America. So we produced Family Feud, American Idol at that time, And then we produced America's Top Model, and then I did all those shows in Spanish as well. So American Idol was Objetivo Fama, and America's Top Model was Belleza Latina, and Family Feud was Que dice la gente, which means what people
Ah,
say. So, so
and
had
your
fun with that.
background, I remember you are partly Latina, right?
Yes, I'm Hispanic, 100%. My mom is from Chihuahua, Mexico, and my dad is what has been in Texas since 1600s, his family. So that was the original Muñoz Villarreal family that came on the ship. I found out that we had been given 25,000 acres of Spanish land grant from the king that didn't own it to start with. But
Yeah, that's nice. Let's give away things that aren't ours. That's a
well,
good
isn't
way to
that how,
ruin your reputation.
that's called deeds and real estate,
Yeah.
back then. But anyway, I did ask my dad how much of that was mine at one time, and he looked at me and he went, "Oh, about that much." But it's as deep as you want it. So,
I love that. So you all, just so you know, it's Toni Munoz
mhm.
Kaufman. So,
Munoz coffee.
I said, and
Uh-huh.
I was thinking you were 50% Latina, but now I remember, yes, I remember
Yeah.
us talking about this and talking about the fact that my daughter's half Peruvian and half American. We're actually getting her
Oh,
dual
nice.
citizenship right now, which is great.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Peru
you've
is
just done
doing
such
great
interesting
things.
things, you all. I just have to tell you all, Toni is never at a loss for words. I really admire that about you. And you're
Thank you.
such a good conversationalist, you know? And I think that as we approach this topic, I think one of the worst ways that we can ruin our brand and our reputation is, and people thinking we're standoffish or we're
Oh,
reserved, being, not speaking, not being friendly, not just being human. What do you think?
oh, you know what? After 2015, I realized that my entire life, everything from there on out was gravy.
Mm,
I had a what I call a God's 2x4 moment
mm.
where I caught H1N1, which is COVID's mommy, by the way,
Whoa.
and ended up losing my right lung and or the use of it, and my trachea collapsed, and I was 37 days in the ICU.
Mm.
And then they transferred me to a hospice, and I made it home for some reason because I didn't die.
You did
you know,
not. You were like, I'm not
and
done.
after that, I mean, it really puts things in perspective. It
Mm,
really does. And
mm.
you have two choices at that point. You're either going to give up and let life take you,
Yep.
or you're gonna get some an ounce of resilience will go a long ways when you're in bed staring
Mm.
at nothing but a laptop or a TV. And you've got a choice. And my big sister, who passed from cancer many years ago, I could hear she was the tomboy and I was the girly girl, right?
Mhm.
She rode motorcycles, and she was a comedian. She'd have people on the
Wow.
floor all over. But her favorite word was every time I sat in bed and felt sorry for myself, I could hear her right here saying, "Yeah, get over it."
So what?
Yeah, that was Celia. Yeah, get over it, right?
Mm.
And so I did come to realize that there was people much less fortunate than I was. And there
Mhm,
was two types of people specifically. One is the HIV folks, because at that point
mhm.
there was still no cure.
Right?
And then of course you've got the cancer people that are going through chemo, and there's some serious issues. And most of them, the ones that I've met and that you've met,
Mhm.
that have come through that, they have
Yeah.
this gift of resilience as well. So I really think that's really important. But we're here to talk about the stuff that's going to kick your butt.
But,
So
resilience of your reputation is important too, because sometimes when the shit hits the fan in business, and we just call it what it is on Bold Badass Business,
yeah,
when it does, we've got to have resilience in business, and
yeah,
we've got to realize that really our reputation is the
yeah,
one thing that someone can't take, right?
sure,
They really can't take it.
yeah.
They can try to mess it up, but I believe the truth will always prevail.
I'm right there with you, Barnsley. Absolutely right there with you, because you either fight it and then you look. I feel like we're borrowing the same playbook if we fight fire with fire. That's not the way to handle a branding problem situation. And I do believe that you keep doing your best and you try and you take care of the five things we're going to talk about that can
Mm.
really destroy you. And let's start with number one is your
Mhm.
customer service.
Whoa,
Okay.
customer service. Oh, yeah.
So here's the one of the worst ways is neglecting your customers, providing subpar, selling them something that you don't fulfill on. And
Mm.
you guys, for all my wonderful speakers, authors, healers, and coaches, there's two schools of thought. One is the general enrollment uh, event, enrollment activities to get people to sign up for your stuff, right? Whether it's a program, product, or service, because everybody's selling one or the other, right? Or maybe a combination of all three. But once they buy, they trust you. They've
Mm.
given you some money. Some people, this is all they've got. And some of the price tags that I've seen range from, 5 to 6 figures a year to work with them. So they're really putting themselves in your hands. And a lot of boomers, that's like our entire retirement, right? So I've seen that happen. I've seen people
Mhm.
remortgage their homes and do that. So once they've made that decision to be your customer, it's because you offered something that they saw in no one else, or they have hope that they're going to be like they're going to arrive where you are now.
Mhm.
So that's the dream, right? To go from employee to entrepreneur is a very different challenge. It's a very different journey. And I'm sorry, let me turn this off because I don't know how to turn it off. Anyway, and I should have quieted. I apologize. So
You
anyway,
know, one
poor
of the best
customer
ways to
service
turn
is
it off is just put it into a big tub of water, you know? That'll take care of it every time, you know? That's all you have
so
to
guys,
do.
take care of the people that you've enrolled and
Mm.
fulfill them. Because
Mm.
to go from enrollment to fulfilling is the promise, is the dream. It's whatever you sold them, the pathway, the transition, the journey. How are they going to get there? And how are you going to celebrate it when they do?
Right, and
Because
all
you
the
become
milestones.
part of their life, and it's part of one of my first podcasts was the world class mentors, and that's what I saw the most often on people who are being called world class mentors, is
Mm.
because they fulfilled, they took care of them. And you know what, I've got 5 or 6 people that were in my very first big high ticket item that I adore, and I invite them to come with me. I invite them to speak at events. I find stuff for them. I look for opportunities
Yes.
because I know exactly how good they are because they worked with me. So,
I love
so
that.
customer service, how's that?
I love it. And you know, I heard this thing. This blew my mind last week. I was reading about the difference between customer service and customer excellence. And customer service is just, like seeing it as a one-time thing where, we're going to serve you. But customer excellence is realizing from the first touch point we are serving all
Yeah,
the way through the delivery and beyond. We
yeah,
continue to serve. We continue to
love
stay
that.
in touch. We don't see it as transactional, which you and
And
I talked a lot about this. That's really a male way, a
yeah,
masculine way of doing business, focusing on a transaction and not
yeah,
on all the relationship and everything that goes before and after the
yeah.
transaction. The transaction is a tiny little piece of it.
That's you write a check, you put it in the bank, done.
Yeah,
Okay,
right?
so let's
Send it
go to
on
number
Venmo.
two. Number two is the lack of transparency.
Mm.
So a lot of people sell a lot of stuff, and what happens is that they bought something, and then for some reason they never got the welcome letter, they never
Mhm.
got the next steps. They don't
Mhm.
remember exactly what they bought, but they know that they trusted you to deliver it. So if they come to you and say, "Can you please tell me, I don't know which part of the journey I'm on," you have to establish the trust because it's the cornerstone of every successful business. So failing to be transparent about your products, your services, your pricing. One of my pet peeves is somebody who says, "Oh, well, this is a monthly payment." And by the way, somewhere hidden in there is that you don't get a refund. And I'm like, oh, so we're stuck for a year. Is that what I just signed up for? I'm in your program for a year, 6 months, 6 weeks, however long the program that you sold was. So it creates that feeling of all of a sudden I feel like I don't trust. And lack
Mhm.
of transparency is I think the second mortal sin to establishing a good, successful brand and business.
And so when you're talking about the contract, let me ask you a question, Tony, and I totally agree with you. It's like read the fine print, right?
Yeah.
But it really, what I'm hearing, and let me know if this is right, is it's not about fine print. It's about just owning it in the contract. Like,
Yes.
hey, this is a monthly, you're
Yeah.
still, even if
Yeah.
you decide to discontinue the program, you're still responsible. I have that in my
Right.
contract
Well, and
because,
there's so many speakers, authors, healers, coaches that offer you, let's say we're doing a 6-month plan. They give you 110% of everything they're doing the first 2 months. So
mhm,
so that now we can ride on those coattails and implement the changes, implement the logistics, implement the brand, implement the service. So a lot of the work happens at the beginning. If people want to quit after the second month, we've already paid a team to take care of you for 6 months. So I see both sides of the equation. It's not that somebody's trying to pull something on you, it's that how much of that program was already accomplished in the first 60 days. And if you stop then, that's kind of not fair. So that's a good way to be transparent, is to say, listen, this is your program, and for this much money, we have to get your headshots, we have to get your videos, we have to get your new branding, we have to create your banners, we have to create your colors, we have to create your fonts, we have to create your videos. All that's going to happen the first 60 days. Please don't stop. Please don't quit, because I just paid for 6 months worth of stuff for you.
right,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah. So
And if
that's
you're
kind
going
of
to,
a good example.
I like that. And I actually just did an interview last week, in fact, or the week before, with Cheryl Plouffe about using risk reversal guarantees, which is fascinating because they absolutely keep the person motivated, and they also keep the person delivering motivated to
Yeah,
continue to augment the profits and the success of the person in the program. So yeah, it's a partnership, isn't it? And
it is.
unfortunately, I say this to people all the time, if they're not in business, they don't get, if they are not in business for themselves, they don't get that if they cancel last minute, what happens?
Yeah.
We're not paid unless we have a clause in our contracts
Yeah.
that, yeah, you have to give 24 hours notice. And then that spot, if it's coaching, goes unused, or
And
that spot in
again,
a program is unused,
yeah, exactly. And you're not going to reach what you were trying to reach to start with because you
Yeah.
gave up too early. So that's part of the transparency. That's part of the negotiation. That's part of the process. And all this should have been already mentioned before you ever signed, right?
Mhm.
But I've seen a lot of folks that, through no fault of their own, they're just using like a template contract that somebody got them on Pinterest,
Right.
something like this. There's stuff missing
They
from those.
bought it at Home Depot along with their will template, right?
Yeah, remember those the contracts they used to sell at Office Depot? All packed
Oh,
up,
yeah.
and you get like right. That's the stuff. Let's go to. We talked about customer service, lack of transparency. I think number three is like my most important of all. It's
Mm,
ignoring feedback or
mm,
criticism, because your customers, they know that every single person, every single new client has its own journey. There's client journeys, there's sponsor journeys, there's coach journeys, there's speaker journeys. If you're going to speak on my event, this is the journey you can expect. This is what's going to
mhm.
happen up to the time you grab the mic.
Yep.
So that ignoring feedback and criticism, I think, is vital, because most people, and I think you and I had a conversation about this on the ship as well. Most people want to help you. They're not putting you down. They're not trying to overpower you and make you feel small and little. They're
Right.
really trying to say, this happened and this wasn't good. Maybe you want to fix it before the next time. I mean, that's how I feel when I talk to folks. If they want some real feedback, I don't call it. I call it critique versus criticism, because criticism has such a negative standing, but it's feedback nonetheless.
Mhm.
So whether it's positive or negative, you have to maintain, and this is the biggest difference between an employee and an entrepreneur. You have to maintain your presence, your position, your standing, your offer, it's all takes place. We're all stakeholders. My
Mhm.
clients are my stakeholders for my projects. My projects are my stakeholders for my tasks. So they all have to. Oh, and there goes my camera. So they all. Hello, this is live television, isn't it?
Woo! Woo!
Yeah. So anyway, that's what's happening on ignoring. You really do want, and you can tell who's trying to be helpful. I've got some good friends that'll say, you know what, Tony, this was really great, but
Mhm.
the video wasn't what we were expecting. We wanted something better. And I did have to go through that my first year, is that I hired three different events, three different video crews. I thought they understood down to a T what I
Mhm.
needed as a result of the end, and
Mhm.
two of the three failed me.
Oh my.
And so I was stuck with a lot of B-roll and then trying to put it together. And to tell you the truth, I still feel like I owe a couple of folks more stuff, more B-roll, right? And so
Yeah.
I'll make it good this year. But that's a very important part of what, the inconsistency in branding and messaging, and that's part of what this whole ignoring feedback is. And I
This
just
is
I just spewed
big.
number four in your face here.
Well, wait, we've got time. Let's talk about number 3 more because this one is super important. Actually, there's 2 parts. One is being inconsistent in your branding and reputation, right?
Yeah.
So if people know you for a certain standard of excellence, I mean, why do you know they're not going to go elsewhere? But if you start showing up inconsistent, they are. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, even things that don't have such a standard, like, why do people go to McDonald's in Paris? Because they at least think it's going to be about the same as the one back home.
I did that in Mexico City after being there for so much time, and I was looking for no Whataburgers in Mexico City, but there are McDonald's, right? You just
Girl,
wanted a taste of
I
home.
had a burger in Paris across from the Gare de Lyon with my daughter, and I could not even eat it. It was so bad.
Oh
It was
no,
so bad. I said, honey, I can't eat this. This is like the worm burgers we used to talk about when we were kids, all that stuff.
burgers.
Oh, somebody found a worm in their McDonald's
So
burger, these urban legends.
the period at the end of the feedback is embrace feedback
Mm.
as an opportunity for you to improve for the next time, and then show commitment to your customer satisfaction, which is the result of embracing feedback.
Mm.
And so that's where I'm coming from in terms of what we need to do and how we need to do that.
So let's say somebody calls you. Let's get this really down to nuts and bolts because I know we've got some listeners who are saying, okay, but you get somebody really irate on the phone. They're mad about something. They're pissed off. Their card was charged double or by mistake or something
Yeah,
happened or they're
that
not happy with
happens.
the
That
product
happens.
it or, whatever. They don't like people with long eyelashes. I don't know. They just have some issues going on and they're irate. So how do you're so good, you're so emotionally intelligent, Toni. How would you deal with a really difficult customer? What are the questions that you would ask them to get the feedback and to find a solution?
Well, wow, that really is good, because when I was at HP, by the time that a support ticket got to us, we were
Mm,
like the top level of escalation.
right.
That means that they've already gone through three different levels before they
Mm,
get to us. So I used to have a running joke, because we would put everybody. My joke was, let's put all the liars in the same room and let's solve this. Some
let's just
people didn't
watch.
appreciate that. And my other main comment was, you guys, this isn't our first rodeo. We've handled much worse than this. By the time that the tickets would get to us at our level, they HP was already missing out on millions of dollars per minute of sales. Because
Mm,
usually it was like the shopping cart broke in the middle of Black Friday, that kind of
yeah.
thing, right? So there was no room. So everybody was irate. But I really do think, especially now in the world of speakers, authors, healers, and coaches, and our favorite entrepreneurs, I really think that if someone is coming at you like that, they're really hurt, and they
Mhm.
feel personally hurt. I had a situation today where I had someone who backed out of going to one of my, well, my guest speaker retreat happening in Austin, and there was nothing I could do to to ask them. I mean, I'd like to sign you up for the one in July. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. And they're like, no, we just want our money back. No, we just want our money back. So, okay, that's what I got to do. But I understood why. Do you know what was happening in their life? They were doing a gala for autism, and that was some of their working capital for the gala.
Mhm.
So instead of spending it with me in July, they really, it didn't, my event didn't happen last month, so I'm getting their money back. But you're right, it did take, and she was wonderful, by the way. She was absolutely wonderful. She never screamed at me or anything like that. It was very transactional, and it was very honest. And
Mhm.
so that's one way to handle it. I mean, you've got to let them air out what the grievance is. You've got to understand it. You've got to assume that, put yourself in their shoes, and then find the way to keep working. And as a matter of fact, I volunteered to sit on their board for the gala. It was
Nice.
that kind of relationship, that it could have been a nasty end to a good friendship.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And it didn't have to be, because all I needed to do was hear out what the emergency was.
And the other
And
thing is it's just a not yet. I say this all the time to everybody. When somebody gives you a no, it's very rare that it's a no with a 3 or 4 exclamation points like, "No, I hate your guts." It's a no, not yet, usually. And so by just letting people know that we're not gonna just run in, have the quick interaction and wanna take their money, that we're gonna be there for the long haul,
yeah,
we're really, really letting them, trust us, as you pointed out. And I love that. I put it up in the comments. Trust. You said this, by the way. Trust is the cornerstone of every successful business, and
okay, I'm going to hold the
especially
camera. Sorry.
now because there is huge mistrust these days. There are all sorts of people. We've seen them all, as you said, charging exorbitant amounts and not delivering what they promise. And, I hear crazy stories by the time
Oh yeah,
people get to me. You
yeah,
know, I hear
yeah.
stories of people who spent thousands of dollars, and then the
Oh yeah.
person who was running the program decided that they didn't deserve to be in there and kicked them out and didn't refund their money. Are you kidding me?
No,
What?
no, no, no.
What?
You, you know, and I think in the entire, wow, what is it, 8, 9 years?
Mhm.
I've had to fire. I had to fire 2 clients.
Mhm.
They and it's so funny because we feel like it's a joke when people say, "Are you coachable?"
Mhm.
But if you're
It's not.
not, don't get a coach, guys.
It ain't a joke.
We're not going to make you happy no matter how much we try.
Right.
So so yeah, and if you don't want to learn, for me, you know what, I can recommend 10 other people that would be probably better at that one thing than me. And so that, I think that's what keeps us open, Barcy. And we did a lot of this conversation on the ship, as well as, with the podcasters. But I mean, there's somebody there for everybody.
Mhm.
And if it's not working, it's okay. We can work it out. I'll recommend you to somebody else. I now I've worked with you for a couple of months. I know what you're looking for, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. It's okay. It's okay. And so that's how I feel about business. That's called an abundance mindset, guys.
Yes.
Okay. And so I always hear this. Well, well, I like that person, but she does exactly what I do, and I don't want the competition. You guys, there is no competition. There's a huge need for so many speakers. I mean, Orlia Moore, one of my very best friends, there's like 1.6 million. Oh, I'm sorry, we just had a visitor join us. Oh, there's thunder. There's
Who's
thunder
there?
outside. So Gabby's shaking because there's thunder
Those of you
outside.
who are listening in on this rather than viewing it, there is the cutest little white dog.
This
Is
is
it a
little
chihuahua?
Gabby, and she's
Oh,
shaking because there's thunder outside, and they get very
oh.
afraid. Which also I should warn you, Houston is notorious for every time there's a rainstorm, we lose internet. So in case
Oh no, we're gonna
yeah,
have our internet. Let's not
give me
put
the
that
good
out there.
juju.
Abundance mindset, abundance mindset. Yes, I am with you,
Right.
Tony, because, truthfully, I just had somebody who I offered an exclusive sponsorship for the show. And this person said, well, you and I really do the same thing. And I said, no, we don't. Are you kidding? He said, well, we kind of do it the same way. And I said, no, we don't. Are you kidding? We're both in your face, but, we do it in a very different way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there was no convincing. And I just, yeah,
Yeah.
there's
I
enough for everybody.
always let that little voice come into your brain when you're thinking that there's competition. There's plenty of work for everyone. I think Orly says there's 1.6 million openings for speakers to get paid. There's still and it's funny because every time we go to a conference, there's more women than men normally, unless you're on the marketers cruise, and then there's more men than women. But there's a huge lack of professional women speakers. So if you guys, I mean, this is perfect. There is an abundance mindset. There are plenty of, you know, contracts available. We just need to know how to navigate the waters, so that we can get where we want. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Are you ready for step number 4?
Well, I think we might want to talk a little bit about step number 3 in
Okay.
terms of the consistency piece that you mentioned too. Like
So
inconsistent.
that's why I'm taking it to 4, because 4
Perfect.
is inconsistent branding and inconsistent messaging. I
Mm.
mean, I I can't tell you. All right, so I used to be the marketing director of 11 malls. Every single mall from Brownsville to Chicago, every
Hmm.
single mall had a logo, the colors, the fonts that we used on every one of their activities and events. But underneath the main logo, the main title of the mall, we had subtitles for events because there's 7 selling seasons. You kept the logo, new title, new event, new branding, but you always kept the logo so that it looked like Sunrise Mall. It looked like Memorial Mall. You knew just at a glance which mall, which city, because they never changed that. So it's okay, guys, if you're doing podcasts, if you're doing Instagrams, if you're doing LinkedIn, as long as you keep your logo consistent with your colors and your fonts, you can
Hmm.
have any event happening, but they know who it came from. So if you start doing a separate logo, banner, event, color for every one of your events during the 7 selling seasons or the 4 quarters of the year, they're going to think this is a new guy that just popped up. So the inconsistency of your message and your branding is like super important so people start recognizing you. Can you imagine Coca-Cola if they changed their logo on every bottle?
Yeah. And they've had issues when they tried to change things. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
I think that this is really important, and everyone needs to have a style sheet. Especially if you have virtual assistants and a different team members, you need a style sheet that tells exactly what your colors are, what look you like. We can all recognize, say, a Nike ad, or we can recognize the Wendy's logo. In fact, I think
Yeah.
kids are able to recognize the fast food logos more than they are, you know, anything else, which is really kind of sad. But, we want to be able to, whatever you're offering, see that it's one of many things that you have under your umbrella, you
Yeah.
know, and it makes life easier because you can have templates. You could have, if you do a lot of different books or audios, you can have templates that you just pop in the right
Yes,
fonts and the titles and whatnot. It makes your life easier too.
it does. So a strong brand is built on consistency across all your touch points. Touch points
Mhm.
being everywhere you place it. So if you're not being consistent, if your messaging is all over the place, um, it'll confuse customers. And guess what? It dilutes the brand. It dilutes the identity. It confuses customers. And you know the old saying, a confused customer will never buy.
They don't. Yeah, and we've all seen those people who are like serial entrepreneurs, and they just come in, and every 6 months or every year they have a different
A
network
different company.
marketing or a different company. And at least if you're going to do that, see it as a suite of things that you're offering under one umbrella. Kind of like
Yeah.
you can have an insurance company and they offer multiple types of insurance, but it's all under one umbrella, one logo. Just, yeah, this is so good. A strong brand is built on consistency on all your touch points,
Isn't that
everything.
great? I just love that because and now there are times when you're going to switch. You're either going to update, you're going to
Mhm.
get a new logo, you may have a new branch of your company. It might be time to reintroduce something, to start brand new with something that worked, right? And so there's, but at that point, this is when you do your announcements, this is when you do your launches, your relaunches.
Mhm.
This is when it becomes an event, not just a brand change. It becomes a celebration of new colors because now you're into health and wellness versus money and finance. So that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that you can have times when you can change, but it becomes an event, a celebration. And everybody knows, oh, you know what? Standout Stars is not just a speaker bureau. Now it's got some training attached to it.
And you announce it and
Yeah.
launch it or relaunch it. I love that.
Yeah.
There's so much in our business, as those of you listening, what I find with my clients so often is that you're sitting on something incredible that you already have. Maybe it's an online program you created, maybe it's an offering, but you forgot about it. Maybe it's a video that you did years ago and you forgot about it, but you're sitting on something. So you want to make sure. Hi, Shub. Shub says, hello, ma'am. Good to see you, Shub. Thanks for commenting. Glad you tuned in. We're having such an interesting discussion. But most business owners are sitting on something that you could relaunch. You already got it. It's like you're sitting on a full suitcase in the airport and saying, well, what do I have to wear?
Oh, I love that. That's a good analogy. Absolutely perfect.
Well, I know you're the
Oh,
fashionista, because those of you who heard earlier that Toni and I were roommates on in our lovely balcony room on the podcasters cruise. Well, Toni was always looking, and I just remember you when we floated into Puerto Rico, that you had on this muumuu and your hair and your makeup were perfect, and here I am. I was just like a mess, because the naturally curly hair and putting on makeup is like, it's a big deal. So anyway, very
you kept saying that, but you
always,
looked
you classed me
wonderful.
up. You just classed me up. I always wanted to sit beside Toni, and because she always made me look better.
You're
And you
so
put on
kind.
those sunglasses, and then people thought you were a movie star. So did I. I even thought you were a movie star. We had some adventures, you all.
You
To
did.
tell you, we were on the rainbow tram and had a discussion with the donkeys. I mean, they're all the donkeys on. Remember that island?
Yeah.
We had a good old time. But Toni, you just have such good ability to interact with people. I think that's just one of your best strengths. And let's hear what number you said. Number 4.
That was
Thank you,
4.
Shub. Shub says, I'm listening to the feedback. I feel you need a good video editor or a thumbnail designer. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. How about listening to our content too? We really care about content. I
Yeah.
am such a recovering academic. You could wear anything in academia and it didn't matter because you were a genius and an expert. Same thing here. Obviously, the content we bring you is just kick ass on Bold Badass Business.
Thank
And we
you.
don't worry, we do it live. I don't want an editor. In fact, I want it to be real. So if Toni
I
burps
like
in the
that.
middle of
That's a
this,
great
Toni, if you
combination.
want to burp, we're not editing it out. Seriously, it's just not going to get edited out. We like to be real. This is the no BS badass business, because there is a lot of BS out there, and we want to
Oh
cut
yeah.
through
Yeah.
that.
Right.
That's what we want to cut through, right,
Well,
Toni?
and I think that's part of being and belonging to various groups, is that we can always say, before you write a 20, 30, $40,000 check to someone, do your
Mhm.
homework, do a little research, find out from the groups. And as a matter of fact, just last night I had somebody contact me and they said, well, I'm about to write a $5,000 check to this. What do you think of this program? And my response was, been there, done that. I love him. If that's what you're looking for, that's a great price. Actually, it should be three times that. And I think you're getting a good deal. And so and now so the question, and I asked some questions like, what exactly are you looking for? How do you think this is going to help you? What's your journey? How are you going to end? Let's say that this is next 6 months from now. Let's say it's 6 months from now. Then where do you want? What's your transformation? When do you become the butterfly?
Mhm.
And what are you going to look like at that point? So we dig deep in, but then there's been others where you don't know if it's worth it. You may have already heard three or four people say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it,
Mm.
and that's just a conversation that we can have as friends. But it might be perfect. I had a friend of mine who actually waited a year before she signed up, did a lot of research and thought that's the one I want. And I said, just go for it, do it. If that's how you feel, if it's right for you. I'm not going to babysit somebody, but I will tell you what the truth, in my opinion, is. And there's very
People
few
talk.
people. There's very few people. Oh, this is, yeah, no,
We
absolutely.
talk.
As a matter of fact, number 5
Oh,
is
good.
is ethical lapses and
Oh,
scandals.
oh boy.
That
Ethical
is
lapses. That's a nice way to say they're freaking dishonest. Ethical lapses. That's perfect. I love it, Tony. It's like suddenly if I, screw somebody over, I can just say, "Oh, I had an
an
ethical lapse."
ethical lapse.
But I'm on target now.
The devil
I
made me
won't
do it.
screw them over anymore. It's like makes me think about like sort of dementia, "Oh, I had an ethical lapse.
Oh,
Oh, you
that's
mean
a
I charged
topic
them
today.
5 times what they were supposed to pay?" Woo.
So we just I won't name names, but there's a person that I absolutely adored, and then I started
Mhm,
getting all this, and so did all my friends, got all these horrible emails,
mhm.
literally destroying this person, and I'm like, what is going on? And I don't want to know. You know what? I in my heart, I really love this gentleman. I think he's wonderful. He could do no wrong by me, but there's some kind of an ethical lapse, and that could be directly with your partners, or that could be directly with a client.
Mm.
The last thing you want to do is a scandal, and nothing makes a scandal go faster than an unhappy customer. you
Mhm.
know because that's why when you ask me how do I maneuver around the bombs and the grenades of people who are unhappy, and the feedback and the criticism, is what's the alternative? I mean, if you tell them to go suck a duck, and go away and leave you alone, the alternative might be that they're going to engage with every single person, and you know what? Life's too short for that, Barnsley.
And
This is
now
my
especially
last year of
all
the
over the
60s.
internet, right?
This
Now
is my last year of the 60s, and I'm too old to have that happen to me. So at this point,
hey,
I really, I want to help. And that's why the first line on my LinkedIn, the very first line on my profile says, "Hello, how may I serve?"
nice,
Because
nice.
that's how I really feel. You and I have met so many people in this world that the first thing that comes out of their mouth is I want to help others. I want to serve others. I'm trying to create this movement because it's going to help a million people. I'm trying. That's who we're hanging with on a daily basis. Those kind of people. How many have you ever heard say, "Oh, I'm only in this for the money"?
Yeah.
N-
Yeah,
They
if you
there's
are only in it for the money, those of you listening, let me tell you, you are not going to have a sustainable business because we have to have a lot more than just the desire for money to do our calling. We've got to really have a calling and a passionate purpose to keep it going and to have the resilience needed in business. I really, your why has got to be paramount, and it's a lot bigger than just your freaking bank account, you
And
know?
you know what else having lived through a divorce, and I was on TV for a long time, so it was very, very out there, very visible in the small hometowns that I lived in. You
Mhm.
know, the hardest thing for us to remember as people when we feel like the whole world is caving in around us is not everybody's talking about you. They have their own lives. They have their own problems. And that took me a couple of years to figure out is they don't care anymore. You're past news. Your old news.
I
Besides,
should
it's
have
an
my title
election
be
year.
Dr. Barnsley Brown, kick-ass coach and center of the universe.
You know, I mean, every single one of our misgivings of anything we've done wrong is out the door. It's an election year. They're doing a lot worse than we ever will. So
Yeah, I always feel so good in election years.
it's like
Talking
I
about
feel,
ethical
I feel pretty
lapses, right?
normal compared to some of those folks.
Mm,
So upholding ethical standards, what your own ethical standards
yes.
is essential, and it maintains trust and credibility, and especially in business, because you are your brand. I mean, so many of us, and it's so funny going from employee to entrepreneur, and I keep using that term because one of the hardest things I found when I had my $3 million corporation, because I was doing a lot of work with Microsoft and things like that, is is my I had I had a wonderful old accountant. He was called. Do you know the story of the three-legged dog with a broken tail, missing an ear, with a patch over one eye? It's called Lucky. That was my accountant,
That's
and we
hilarious.
called him Lucky. But I remember he would tell you, this this isn't you. This is your corporation. This is your company. You go home, feed the children, play with them, go to their games, go to their plays, take care of your husband even though he works for you. That's you. This is your company. And
Mm,
that was one of the hardest lessons I ever had to understand, that my computer company wasn't me, because I had been selling it. I was the main spokesperson. I was, it's my company, it's my paycheck, it's every. And so that was an ethical concern on my accountant's part, because he said I was too engaged and I
mm,
couldn't separate the personal from the business. And
mm.
I don't know if that's a woman thing,
Yeah.
because I don't think a lot of guys have trouble with that, but that really, and I'm a boomer, obviously, so that we were like the forerunners to all the all the women's lib movement and all that,
Yeah.
especially in the 70s, right? And so that's why we felt so personal when somebody talked bad about the company or didn't
Mhm.
want one of our proposals, or we lost something. And so engaging in what's an unethical practice? Let's go through that. Dishonesty, all right? Not meaning what you say, not following up on what you do. Fraud of any kind,
Mhm.
deliberate fraud, where you take somebody's money you never had an intention of taking care of them,
Mhm.
or one of the most often complaints that I hear is, yeah, I bought this person's program, but then they turned me over to three of their coaches. I never met them again.
There you
You know,
go.
right? And you thought you were getting that person, right? So
Mhm.
exploitation. How many times do you feel like every time you talk to someone, they want to sell you something else? They haven't taken care of the first thing, but they're selling you 10 more things. And I'm like, no, I don't want to buy anything else. Take care of me here. you know,
Right, or you get in the program, you're in the program, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is a great program," and then they're like, "Oh, well, to keep going, you need this, and it costs $5,000." And that happens too. It's like, don't make an offer that somebody you're gonna have to, give them more stuff that they have to have. No, we
but
don't
you're
wanna do
holding back because it's a bigger sale. Oh, the upsells are driving me
exactly.
nuts
Oh my
sometimes.
goodness. Yes. There's some really unethical practices out there, and certainly just promising things you are never going to deliver, or you buy a program and then suddenly that program is shut down.
Oh,
you know
I've heard of that. I've never
yeah,
personally had that happen to me, but yeah, it just disappeared. Like
it just
the whole thing.
disappears.
So, anything that can lead to what they call public outrage, even though you're not a
Mhm,
celebrity, even though you're not public to you as your immediate group.
mhm,
I have a Facebook group that has 32,000 people. I take care of that group. I try to whittle out things that I don't want them to see, and I try to give them the stuff that I feel they should see. I have another one that has 17,000 people, and the biggest thing they have in common is these are people looking for work or new little businesses looking for clients. And so how do we take care of them? I keep, oh, there's so many people pretending to be humans on Facebook that try to give you all this junk, this scam reports. I stay on. So I've made it. The reason that my groups are that big is because I force them. If they post anything, I have to approve it. And I've
Nice.
got two or three managers with me, approval folks that manage it. And so we're kind of weeding out the nasty videos that some people. Oh, there's horrible stuff out there.
Oh my.
So yeah, I mean, it takes a good hour, like almost every night, to go through all the job advertisements
Mm,
and all that, and to
mm,
whittle out the real ones. I mean, how many times can you put the same stuff over?
mm,
And if they don't have I mean, I'll click on them to go see their profile, and if they have nothing but a picture, one picture,
mm-hmm.
I'm not putting that
Or they
out.
have 17 friends.
Yeah.
Delete.
How do they have a job? How are they offering a job if they don't even have a business? It ain't gonna go through. So I've really been nurturing those groups. It's been years. But I
Hmm.
mean, that's one of the public outrage kind of legal representations things. Um, the anything that you feel could do long-term damage to your business,
Hmm.
to yourself, to your image, that's something that you should consider, because reputation is important.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you what, it's been almost 10 years and I've been working so hard to maintain and establish and the trust and just be honest and the integrity, and it happens. Some people ain't gonna like you no matter what you do. It's okay.
Exactly, and that's okay. That's
It's
okay,
okay.
and you gotta be you,
Yeah.
people know that, every now and again, I'm gonna curse, I'm not gonna be demure. I'm not gonna just toe the rope and be like, "Oh, yes, that's fine," when I don't think that's fine. I'm gonna speak up, and, it's okay. It took me a long time, Tony. I still work with the people pleaser within myself, right?
Oh
To
yeah.
be okay with just owning my voice as my voice is, and
Yeah.
be okay with the fact that, especially, some people are going to think it's not appropriate for a woman, and that's all right, because that's who I am. This is who I am, and we
Yeah.
got to be us, and just to be consistent with that, right? Because the people who are able to hear our message and hear our voice will be attracted to it, and the people who aren't will be repulsed, and that's good.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I mean, the end of that is conduct your business and be proud of it. It's integrity, it's transparency,
Yes.
and if there are ethical concerns, or take care of them swiftly and decisively. You don't need to advertise that you just went through this and to the whole world. Most people don't even know you're going through that. But if you feel that way, you can pull in two or three of your affiliates, people who trust you and they promote you,
Mhm,
the JVs. That's a joint
mhm.
venture. People who believe in you and who know that they can make a couple of bucks if they just promote your stuff because it's really good stuff, you know. And so take care of the influencers, people that have their communities, and they'll back you up. And these are relationships that you've made. I mean, I'm still playing with the relationships and the mentors that I made the very first year I got into this industry, and I still go to their events and I still support them. And every time I can, I'll do a testimonial for them because they helped change my life.
That's
And after
wonderful.
my husband died, they were there. Like, you have no
Amazing.
idea. They were there with friends, and it was something you can't buy.
So I want to say something to everybody listening too, that I'm hearing and what you're saying, and that is that when someone introduces you to someone else, they're putting their reputation on the
Oh yeah.
line. And take that freaking seriously. Like, if they have taken the time to introduce you to someone because maybe you all could do a joint venture partnership, or because you could be on their show or whatever, you could do a show swap. Well, make sure you follow up, because otherwise the person who introduced you looks like crap, you know?
That comes back to my casting director hat. I
Yeah.
put a casting director on. If I get a call from someone, let's say in Houston, that they're doing well, this actually happened. There was the anniversary of the Mars rover, and NASA, of course, is right on our southeast shore here. And they brought in God, what's his name? The guys. I'm blowing it.
Neil
Um,
Armstrong? I don't know.
no, 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 no. The science guy, Bill. Is it Bill Nye? Bill?
Bill Gates?
No,
Wait,
the sci.
Bill.
His title is the science guy.
Oh, well, that's
Bill
okay.
Nye, the science guy.
Yes,
Yeah,
Bill Nye, the
yeah.
science guy. It rhymes.
So yeah, yeah. So they brought him in, and they had and they. To tell you the truth, I ended up being his makeup person because they couldn't find a makeup person that anybody trusted, and he did not. It's so funny. I'll tell you the story. The very first thing he did is he says, "Let me see your hands," before I touched anything. And I went like this, and he says, "Okay." He says, "If you had been wearing those horrible fake nails with all of those germs underneath them, you would not have touched my face." So I don't wear fake nails, and so that saved me that day because you better not have them on if you're going to touch my face, kind of thing, right?
Wow. So
So
interesting.
but what I'm getting at is that I was also as a producer, and in Texas it's a non-union state, so we can do 5 jobs as one producer. It's not like California; you only have one job. And so I was asked to bring in a couple more speakers. So it was my job to go find some good professors, Rice University, that kind of thing, UT Houston, U of H Houston. And so I was looking for speakers to be interviewed by the people who were running that section of Good Morning America, right?
Hmm.
So now think about this. If I pick the wrong person, guess who never gets called again as a producer?
You.
Right. So this is why we have to have that relationship with our students, with our friends, with our community. Because if they want someone to speak on a certain topic and I know you're the master at it, I'm calling you. Right. But if I don't know that you can handle a 5-minute interview with 3 questions, I can't take that chance because I won't get the opportunity again. So that's the level of trust that we have to have as casting directors and producers for events and speaking engagements, is we have to have that level of trust.
And that level, as you put it earlier, we're all stakeholders. So our prospects and clients are stakeholders in our businesses. We're stakeholders in our businesses. The media is a stakeholder in our business in some way. So it's important that we choose carefully who we associate with, because we will become known by association. So when you say Good Morning America, everyone says, wow, she worked with Good Morning America, she's the real deal, right? It's
Yeah.
important that we look at our associations in terms of who are we surrounding ourselves with,
Yeah.
not just the credibility of the institutions or the businesses they represent, but also who are they as human beings. Like, is this a nice person?
Precise.
Is this actually
Absolutely.
a nice person? If I fell down in front of this person, would they give me a hand up?
I can
Or would
tell you
they
a couple of
step
people who
over
wouldn't.
me? That's
So
funny, because
guys,
I was actually thinking about something that happened on the cruise when one of the people fell. Well, I was right behind her, and so I was the person who got to be the hand up
oh
and walk with her. And she was with someone who was really being a little bit on, I can't go into any more detail, but let's
yeah,
just say she needed some tender care right then, and
yes.
she actually
No, of
broke all
course.
her ribs, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, yeah, that's vulnerability.
Yeah,
And you know what? It's okay. A lot of people like you because you are vulnerable. That's how I teach people to speak. It's You don't want to talk about, oh, this is my accolade. I won this. I was Woman of the Year. I was top 10 women in computing. I was at. By the time you finish running your accolades, people are like, oh my God, you're
yeah,
untouchable. I don't want to hear it. I'm bored. But you know
exactly.
what? If they hear that you were in the hospital, that you went through this, that you got God's 2x4, that you fell, that you had a bankruptcy, that you lost your business at one point, that you lost your home at one point, that you
Yep,
were, you know,
that you're
that's the
divorced.
that's the magic of vulnerability,
Yeah.
guys. And if you're thinking of speaking and you don't want to share your story, you're missing out on the connection that it forms. Because
Oh
at
my
that
God,
level,
Tony. I just
At
looked at, we have got to wrap, my dear. I just looked
oh,
up and I'm like, OMG, this hour passed so fast. Could you all tell that we had fun on the Podcasters Cruise? We were talking all the
thank
time
you, Marcy.
and watching all those funny ghost programs about people out ghost hunting. So you all, Toni, you're going to give everybody a freebie, right? Well, I'm going to put it in the vault. I'm so excited, you all, about the freebie vault. OMG, freebie vault. It's at bit.ly/free from Dr. B. And you just go in there and you will not only be able to access my freebies, but the freebies of everybody who's been on Bold Badass Business. Toni, can you tell us in 5 seconds, what are you going to give everybody?
If I remember right, I think I was giving away the makeup makeover to all of your folks, men and women. You need to touch up a little bit. And you know what? Especially women over 50, we have a different situation, but it's a free makeup makeover, and we're going to have some fun, guys. So when you click on it, you're going to go set an appointment. I do this once a month, and I let 10 people in because, and you have to bring your own makeup because I'll show you how to use it, how to apply it,
Sounds so
and how
fun.
to
I
get
might actually
camera
put on
ready.
more makeup. Like I have on lipstick and eyeliner today. I'm doing well. But yes, I love this. So you all you have to do is go to bit.ly/free from Dr. B. And we will have Toni's freebie up. It will take us about a week to get it up there, but it's going to be up there. And right now you can go in and access all sorts of stuff already. And you can access all the previous episodes of the Bold Badass Business Show. Toni, you have, as always, been a delight. Thank you for coming. And everybody, remember that you are a bold badass, or you wouldn't be listening to us here. And be back 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Other time zones, you freaking translate it yourself. Next
And Pacific
Friday,
time.
and I'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Toni.